Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and today's lesson will be on Delécluse Solo number 2. This is a really great solo, and it's difficult, not because of any kind of rhythmic issue. It's just that the rolls are really difficult to play at this particular tempo, which is quarter note equals 100. You have to figure out your underlying pulse before you do anything. Now, if you go a couple clicks up or down, it makes a huge difference. So this is one of those nooks and crannies tempos where the rolls can be difficult to play, especially in 3/4. And of course, just like in all of Delécluse Etudes, there's lots and lots of dynamics. So we'll start out with the main theme, which is this. 1, 2, 3. So that idea of ba, da, 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 that 2 against 3 roll thing, that comes back later on in the recapitulation. And unlike a lot of his solos, this has no retardando anywhere in it. It's straight tempo all the way through. So for these rolls, there's a couple things you could do, and I'll show you a few tricks. So you can have an underlying pulse, which is what I recommend, which can be 16ths, which at this tempo is this. Now that's just a little bit slow to make all those rolls super confident. A great tempo for that 16th pulse is 110. So when we move it up to 110, you can see it's a lot easier. So that's me doing 16th note buzzes along with the 16th note underlying pulse. But unfortunately, you can't always choose the tempo you play at. So you have to have a plan, like I said. So for this, you can choose to play at 16th note underlying pulse, but you have to make sure those rolls are clean. And to do that, you have to practice your buzzes, getting them long enough. And to do that, you want to just play this. So as soon as you hit that drum, you want to press in and release immediately. You don't want any outstanding strokes like this. You want them all to be buzzed right from the get-go. And when you put those together, you get a fairly clean roll. Now, this takes many, many years of practice. And as you notice, I don't use my arms too much, a little bit, but I don't do this. If you do that, you're going to get pulsating in your rolls, okay? So you can have a 16th pulse, you can have a triplet pulse, you can have a quintuplet pulse, you can go from left to right, right to left, or the same hand. It doesn't really matter. As long as you have those buzzes so they last a certain length, you can get away with a few different pulses. Another way to play this would be left to right, so groups of 5. That sounds like this. So you see there, that roll starts with the left, ends with the right. And that's a 5, okay? So that underlying pulse. So you see there, I was accenting each 5 and then I took that away. Okay, so those are your 2 options for this particular solo. You can use 5s or 16ths. I used mostly 16ths when I just played it. So that's up to you. It's a little bit more difficult because you got to get more buzzes into that. So there's lots of difficult little roll passages in this, especially line 4. If you look at that, the TR, which is trill, you roll right to the next note. So that second bar, you could think of that as a 5-stroke roll, but with buzzes. Now, if I start on my left and end on my right, it sounds like this. Much, much more tricky. So there especially, I would use the 16th note underlying pulse. And then you have the last bar of that line, And that has a very common Delécluse thing where he has a rhythm and then you roll all the way through it. So that sounds like this. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and if I bring that out, and if I go hand to hand, so I just showed you 3 ways to do that. So this is hand to hand. This is the same hand. And this is just buzzing all the way through it without any accents. That was the first way I did it. So that's the underlying pulse. And in that way, it's 16ths. But it's 5s if I switch hands. Again, you'll have to make the decision what you want to do there. And then we have these rhythms on line 5 that within the rolls. Okay, so you want to hit that first note and then do the roll right away. And again, there I'm doing the 16th note pulse. And immediately he goes to this difficult flam little excerpt there. So here you can play this in a rudimental way like this. Problem is it's subito piano. So you need to play that really soft. So in this case, I'm doing it with one hand. All right, and I recommend you do that as well. Just one hand plays all the notes, and the other hand does the flams. Okay, tricky, and it's easy to get flat flams, so be careful. And then the same thing on the next line with the drags. He does this a lot. So it's 1. So there you want to play your drags pretty closed. 1. Okay, I'll do that a tempo. 1, 2, 3, 1. All right, so you see how I'm sticking that. It's the concept of playing everything with my right, but all the grace notes with my left hand. Now the next line, what line is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Line 7 has this kind of difficult figure. And it's difficult, but it's not if you just use all 16th notes. So that sounds slowly. All right, so let's play that whole line for you. 1, 2, 3. So that's line 7. Let's see if there's anything else here. Oh yeah, the second line from the end is very, very tricky. So you're starting out. So that bar there, where you're, I guess it's the 1, 2, 3, the 4th bar in, you're having to do this triplet, then a roll, which starts with your left hand, and then do these accents on the last beat. So you got to make sure you get off on your roll. And you don't really have a choice there. You have to do an opposite hand. Here's what that sounds like in time. 1, 2, 3. And then immediately subito piano. Though that's always extremely tricky to do. So you go. And that's an exercise you could do. I used to practice that kind of thing a lot. I'd go. Now you don't always have to go to the edge like I'm doing. Sometimes there's not time. So in that case, you could just play it right off center. So. Of course, it's not going to be as soft. And finally, the last line is extremely syncopated. You have to pace that crescendo. It goes over 4 bars. So don't get too loud too soon. So we'll try it the last bar on the second to last line from the end. 1, 2, 3. and you want to give a really big finish on those last two drags. Now there's one more thing before we go I want to mention. Sometimes if you run out of roll, that's common in these Delécluse things because he ties to nothing, you can let your left hand take up the buzz, okay? So this, so you lift up and that left hand's still buzzing. All right? As opposed to, because sometimes you're getting soft and you want to play a nice legato roll and have it go into that soft part. So. And you have to recover with your right hand. So the last line is a perfect example where I'm making up that space with my left hand. So don't be afraid to experiment with that. Another line that works on is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The sixth line, when you have third measure in. Okay, I'll play that for you in time. 1, 2, 3. All right, and I posted a little there so you could see my underlying pattern of 16ths. But you see how I'm extra buzzing with my left hand to make up for that space. So I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time with number 3.